I wanted to do a video now all about dark triad traits in psychology and how we define these traits and what these traits amount to. And when we get these traditional ideas of these three characteristics we find among people, we find narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism very closely means our tendency to manipulate one another. And this could be for personal gain, it usually is, or it could be to bring about some sort of unfavorable condition for other people if left unchecked. I want to say at the outset that people who embody these traits are not necessarily incapable of being virtuous people because of how we define a psychopath. For instance, a psychopath is someone who lacks empathy and they also lack remorse. So one of the curses we find with empathic people, and I think most people are empathic, and the research literature suggests this also, because primary and secondary psychopaths combined, secondary psychopaths being what we used to call sociopaths, these count for about 3% of the population in terms of being a diagnosable personality disorder. Whereas these traits may exist in larger portions of the population, in different people at different times, but not strictly speaking meet the threshold for the diagnostic criteria. So, we can all be, get angry and you might say you're acting like a psychopath or something, whereas strictly speaking, you're not a psychopath. Or you're getting a bit vain and full of yourself, hence you're embodying more narcissistic traits without strictly speaking being diagnosable as a narcissist. But these can be very problematic traits in society. I would have said when it is divorced from virtue, when we don't have a good sense of the Aristotelian virtues, the 12 traits such as truthfulness, sense of justice, friendliness, wittiness, etc. When we're deficient in any of those sorts of categories, then I would say that dark triad traits become problematic. But and indeed, a large and disproportionate portion of the prison populations in the Western world contain psychopaths, basically. They're disproportionately represented in prisons. They're also disproportionately represented in certain high power jobs, particularly in the corporate world, and particularly in anything to do with, I think, any kind of sales role. They tend to excel very much in those sorts of fields. As with Machiavellianism, the essence of sales is highly Machiavellian. I was a salesman for a bit. I worked for a couple of weeks at a call centre in Bath doing telesales. Never got paid a penny for it, obviously. And I did a little 2-day stint door-to-door selling, and I absolutely couldn't stand it. I think the empathic curse, and the curse of empathic people is firstly that we pick up very intuitively on all the social cues around us, both when people seem satisfied with us and when they seem dissatisfied with us. And this can induce in us quite a lot of often unwarranted feelings of guilt and shame, and we can fall into all sorts of mental health issues. When we're exposed to people's judgment, constantly we're thinking we're not good enough, we'll never measure up, we can't compete in this world. And on a level, society seems to value dark triad traits really quite highly. If you are this classic Patrick Bateman sort of outline of the psychopath, and you're really kicking ass in the corporate world or in an investment bank or something, and you're Machiavellian, and you've got everyone to look up to you because of how charismatic you are, how socially dominant you are, how you've got this superficial charm that has really sort of taken everyone in, and yet we we put these people really at the pinnacles of society very often. And a psychopath, again, needn't necessarily be a bad person. They needn't be lacking in virtue. For instance, we can think of a soldier, who is a fearless person, or really ought to be if they're a soldier. A person who is very brave, and possibly a bit remorseless as well. Though we don't know quite, I think, the full extent of how psychology affects soldiers, apart from this concept we have of PTSD. But it's some people gifted with a lack of remorse will be very good at taking life, for example. You might think of a surgeon possibly as being a bit of a psychopath, possibly. A bit of someone who will be very good at their job. I imagine women like if they ever become qualified as a surgeon, but would almost be unempathic. That is, not really concerned with the feelings of everyone around them, but hyper focused on the specifics of their job, if you see what I mean, and with the surgery itself, and not necessarily with other people's feelings. That's kind of like a bit of a cutout of high-powered individuals that we might find in like a medical TV show or something. They might be a bit unfeeling and a bit cold as well. And I think what we need to acknowledge the dangerous characteristics associated with dark triad personalities. We need to understand our psychology better and the psychology of other people, because I think in society we have a deep-seated fear of other people, generally speaking, whereas I think most people, psychopaths and dark triad inclined people, as well as the majority of us who are more empathic, this 97% really of people who I'd say are empaths on some level, we need to watch out in our own psychologies that we don't start embodying, say, Machiavellian or narcissistic traits. We need to acknowledge also that a lot of people, and I'm thinking really much of like these new TikTok influencers we have, like HS TikTok and so on, like these people who have managed to get millions of followers and by producing some pretty desperate and unfortunate content often, I think. And we've got to acknowledge that like people like that are very, very adept at knowing how to push social buttons and how to inflame people in the right way, and how to manipulate people in the right way. Likewise, we think of politicians, possibly certain politicians at least embodying these traits. You might think of the empath actually as being the herd of sheep herded by the elite of psychopaths and sociopaths, very possibly, given the way that our societies are structured and given the large, significant social and economic problems we face in economies in the West. It's something that warrants a deep amount of discussion and thought. And rather than being cowed and intimidated by these dark triad people who may not embody virtue, that's also the other thing. They're not necessarily good, and I suspect a lot of them aren't particularly good and impressive people when it comes down to it, and will be using their highly Machiavellian, deeply remorseless and unempathic natures to manipulate large groups of people for their own ends, basically, and may spread messages of hate to guide us towards policies like Brexit and things, so that they can, on one hand, destabilise financial markets, very possibly momentarily lower the value of British stock, and the market quickly recovers. So they've had this low point in which to buy that stock, it recovers again. See what I mean? Money can be made in this way, lots of money, and government corruption is a real thing. We've known that, if nothing else, over the past 16 years or so. Well, it's always been a case, isn't it? But particularly, I think in this era of austerity that we've had since 2008 or so, or particularly since 2010, the start of David Cameron's tenure as Prime Minister. And David Cameron, like, that's someone that strikes me as a very dark triad sort of person, a rather calculating, cold, unfeeling man, very likely, I think. And these people can be more gregarious, often very gregarious, very, very socially adept. At a lower level, often they will be less charming, and but they could be highly talkative, for instance. They could be one of these people who insist on always being the center of attention in a social situation, don't necessarily acknowledge or respect the social cues of other people, don't respect boundaries and things like this, because they don't know where they are. They lack that empathic, intuitive sense of dealing with others that most of us have. So most of us know when to stop talking. Most of us know when to give eye contact, when too much eye contact is not enough. Like, another sign of a dark triad, sort of psychopathic person, is the famous blank stare, isn't it? When they just don't, they don't know when to stop looking at you, because they can't recognize straight away that it's making you uncomfortable. So they keep staring. And that's another sort of thing that's likely. I wouldn't say, like, fearlessness in psychopaths. Like, they would, primary psychopaths anyway, true psychopaths, almost never suffer from anxiety, and that is something very common mental disorder. Like, something I suffer from, certainly. That is I can't keep this still. Sorry, I've been up all night. I haven't been able to sleep tonight. But yeah, I've been, compulsively thinking again, which isn't a good thing. But yeah, and about this and about other things, and I felt this was an important video to make, even though a lot of people know about the Dark Triad already. Still, not enough people, I don't think, recognize the significance of it to the culture we've developed and the system of values that we've developed. And, like, if you think about this, like, self-help, success-orientated culture, this culture that is deeply interested in individual advancement rather than advancement for the collective good, that you should be out for yourself, seeking your own advancement at all costs, to the detriment of other people. And it's pull yourself up by your bootstraps, isn't it? That like Protestant imported American aesthetic of pursuing the American dream. It's always an individualistic dream. It's never a dream for the community or for your country even, or your fellow people. It's always an individualistic thing, a personal rise to social dominance, which I don't know. Like, for my own part, I don't want to come across as if I'm virtue signaling here or anything. Like, that I do believe in embodying virtue as opposed to virtue signaling, and trying to, be the fairest, most friendliest person I can be, the most honest person I can be, and funny as well, and to enjoy other people's company and to value other people. But like, then again, I've got a YouTube channel, haven't I? So that's possibly narcissistic. I don't deny that. Like, and I do like the attention as well, also. But I like to think it's not all a misguided vanity project, like it might be with a true narcissist, and that they're only the only thing they're seeking is the constant approval of others, or they're seeking. If it's a grandiose narcissist, they're seeking to sort of prove they're better than everyone else, or their ideas are more important than everyone else's ideas. But then again, I don't think I share anything that I don't think is going to help someone, or help someone understand something, or contribute to a debate on something. That's really what I'm interested in. And I'm interested in stand-up comedy. That's kind of an attention-seeking thing, just by the basic nature of it, you know. But I hate to say it, like, if I embodied dark triad characteristics, I think I'd probably be a lot more successful than I have been. Because I think a lot of other dark triad sort of people in like the comedy industry, for instance, would have looked upon me as someone like, oh, he's like one of us, so we'll invite him into the fold. Whereas that never really happened with me. And this is like how it sort of operates in society as well. Like there's groups of them that are already established. Then the new like Machiavellian, narcissistic, psychopathic individuals coming on stream get spotted by the older ones and kicked up the ladder by the older ones. And that's just been going on for centuries. So very possibly we live in a society in which the psychopathic, the Machiavellian and the narcissistic form a cooperative continuum at the very top of society. It should be the duty of the 97% to rein that power structure in, oppose it at all costs, and represent the majority of people who are capable of things like empathy, kindness, consideration for others, consideration for their community, etc., rather than vain personal ambition, unmotivated by anything other than the accumulation of wealth, status, which connects obviously to wealth, power, fame, whatever, divorced from any other kind of social good, if you understand my meaning. So we've actually got, I think, a society in which we worship the dark triad, and that's a big problem. We must reorientate ourselves towards virtue and insist that people with these dark triad characteristics be virtuous, or insist on reining them in if they're not. But I think I've gone on long enough about this. I think I've roughly made my point. I don't know what else to say. I think that is what I wanted to say. Yeah, so thank you everyone for watching. I think I'll leave it there. Please have fun in the comments if you're a dark triad person. I don't think that we all hate you or anything necessarily. I know that you can be great people. It's not impossible. But I will say this also. I've come across a lot of people in my time who I'm deeply scared of and who I know embody these traits, and they are powerful people and they've risen high in society, and their power troubles me, and their dominance troubles me, their influence troubles me, and this is built out of manipulative Machiavellian characteristics, their own inflated sense of self-importance, that they think they deserve like so much power and money. And then, of course, psychopathy, a lack of remorse, and a lack of shared feeling between people, like empathy. So thank you for